Sicilian Defense, Best Repertoire for Black. Chapter 1, the Rauzer Sicilian. I have had a lot of success over the years with the Sicilian and a lot of sharp and interesting games. This course is for all players from beginner to about 1800 FIDE. Of course, higher-rated players will enjoy learning the lines as well. It is especially for people who are looking for something new to play against 1 point times 10 to the 4, and I know my fans will have success with the lines I recommend throughout the course. Happy checkmating, the Rauzer Sicilian. Variation number 17. Queen d3. Let's review. e4. c5, the Sicilian. Black controls the d4 square and keeps their center pawns safe from capture. In the open Sicilian, where white plays d to d for early move 3 or 4, black will capture the pawn and have to center pawns to white's 1 center pawn. Playing the Sicilian shows that black wants to fight for an advantage rather than playing the symmetrical one, e5, and trying for equality. In this quick starter guide, you will find a couple of variations per chapter which I think demonstrate thematic play in each line. White's main move by far, aiming for an open Sicilian. It's called that because after d4, black's c-pawn and white's d-pawn are exchanged, opening some lines for active play. Knight c6. d4, the open Sicilian. C take d4, the point of black moves c5, depriving white of a full pawn center. Knight take d4. Knight f6, attacking the e4 pawn. Knight c3. d6, this is the starting position in our course for the open Sicilian. Of course, white can deviate earlier, and we will check those lines in other chapters. This position has been dubbed the classical Sicilian. Bishop g5, the Rauzer Sicilian. e6, black's pawns on e6 and d6 control the center and allow black to develop their bishops. Queen d3. a6, black likes to play a6 in a lot of Sicilian lines to defend the b5 square and prepare to play b5 later. Knight takes c6, usually white doesn't want to play knight, takes c6 in the Sicilian, since it brings the black b7 pawn to c6 and bolsters the center for black to play d5 later. B takes c6. Castle queenside. White can already castle queenside, which is typical when white has moved their queenside pieces before his bishop on f1. This ensures a sharp position since likely. Black will castle kingside, and both sides can start a flank attack against the opponent's king. d5, black likes to play d5 in the Sicilian when possible. Queen e3, this pins the d5 pawn with the rook on d1. White also defends his bishop on g5. Finally, the bishop on f1 is ready to develop and isn't blocked anymore. Bishop e7, this developing move also unpins the knight on f6. Bishop take f6. This tactical move makes sense since black must take with the pawn and somewhat ruins his kingside. Luckily for black, they get a lot of pawns in the center. G take f6. Bad as bishop take f6. White has too many attackers on d5 and the e6 pawn is pinned. Bishop c4, taking advantage of the rook pinning the d5 pawn to the queen. The bishop defends the white king on b3 and puts pressure on black's center. Bishop b7, a rich position where black has two bishops and a lot of center pawns, and white has the safer king for now. The engines slightly prefer white, but any Sicilian player should be fine taking black here. Black can leave his king in the center for a while since he has so many pawns in front of his king, and at the right moment, they can castle kingside and play king h8, and the king should be safe enough. The Rauzer Sicilian. Variation number 2, 7, Queen d2, Similar concept to the previous variation, giving equal advantage to black. Let's review. E4. C5. The Sicilian. Black controls the d4 square and keeps their center pawns from capture. Knight f3. White's main move by far, aiming for an open Sicilian. It's called that because after d4, black's c-pawn and white's d-pawn are exchanged, opening some lines for active play. Knight c6. d4, the open Sicilian. C take d4, the point of c5, depriving white of a full pawn center. Knight take d4. Knight f6, attacking the e4 pawn. Knight c3. d6, this is the starting position in our course for the open Sicilian. Of course, this position has been dubbed the classical Sicilian. Bishop g5, the Rauzer Sicilian. e6, black's pawns on e6 and d6 control the center and allow black to develop their bishops. Queen d2, the main line, preparing to castle queenside. a6, this move is a good all-purpose move in a lot of variations of the Sicilian. White no longer has access to b5 for his bishop or knight, and black can later play b5, especially when white castles queenside. Castle queenside. White always castles queenside in the Rauzer, and black gets the kind of dynamic and exciting game he's looking for. Knight take d4. Queen take d4. Bishop e7. Black is ready to play the standard moves b5, bishop b7, castle kingside, in different move orders, depending on what white plays first. f4. b5. White is going for our king, so we need to go for theirs. Bishop take f6. G take f6. e5. White plays forcefully. d5. Once black has played d5, we have a nice center and won't need to worry about losing the d6 pawn anymore. Next, we will develop with bishop b7, and white will have to show something for their lack of bishop pair. The Rauzer Sicilian, variation number 3, 7 f4, is not a very popular move. Black achieves a better position with this variation. e4. c5, the Sicilian. Black controls the d4 square and keeps their center pawns e7 and d7 safe from capture. Playing the Sicilian shows that black wants to fight for an advantage rather than playing the symmetrical e5 and trying for equality. Knight f3, white's main move by far, aiming for an open Sicilian. It's called that because after d4, black's c-pawn and white's d-pawn are exchanged, opening some lines for active play. Knight c6. d4, the open Sicilian. C take d4, the point of c5, depriving white of a full pawn center. Knight take d4. Knight f6, attacking the e4 pawn. Knight c3. d6, this position has been dubbed the classical Sicilian. Black can also play a different move order and get the same position. Bishop g5, the Rauzer Sicilian. e6. f4, this isn't very popular, and black gets a good position easily and scores well in the database. h6, putting the question to the bishop. Bishop h4, white maintains the pin on the f6 knight. Bishop e7, this unpins the knight and develops a piece. Bishop b5, pins the other knight. Bishop d7, black has all their minor pieces out and is ready to castle. Castle kingside. Castle kingside. Black has no problems, and white's position does not gel with the b5 bishop and h4 bishop. The bishops don't really want to trade themselves for the knight, and our center is solid. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.